it. I'm just going to be reorganizing my screen. And so I wanted to give you an idea of what we're going to cover today to make sure you understand what the agenda is going to be. So I'm going to touch on a little bit as far as why are we meeting. I think it's real important to make sure we're all on the same page, and then also provide some background on SCN and Project Cities. We'll be touching on what we hope is the purpose behind the small communities work group, which we're calling RISC at this particular time, and then also any feedback and community updates, and also when we can meet next, so kind of moving forward. And feel free to put any comments in the chat or questions as we're going along. We are recording this, so we will have our recording and the PowerPoint presentation up online through our SCN meetings page. And most likely we'll try to do this again as well. So if you have other communities that you think would benefit from participating in this type of forum, let me know. And we can also do another introductory meeting as well, because we realize schedules are tight sometimes and not everybody can make it. So real quickly, why are we meeting here today? Well, it's kind of interesting because with Sustainable Cities Network, it started out as a regional, kind of Phoenix Metro regional initiative. But over the course of time, it has gone to more of a statewide network. And one of the things that I've noticed over the course of time is that rural and small communities are often underserved. You face very similar challenges and interests, but yet you're very different in many respects from your medium and large sized counterparts. And so there doesn't seem to be a lot of or as much information on funding, opportunities, engagement as some of these other communities have access to. And so it became very apparent that we needed to cater to the small to medium-sized communities better through leveraging information, resources. Here at ASU, as Bill and then also Christina have mentioned, we have a lot of capacity, be it in the form of data and information, research, and also proposals for funding that we think small communities could definitely take advantage of. And recently, through Caitlin Nieves, who is our student worker, she was doing some informal surveying and interviews with local communities just to kind of get a feel for specifically what were some of our top priorities for small communities. And Caitlin, did you want to talk a little bit about the survey results that you were able to find through your conversations?
Yeah, sure. So basically the top 5 concerns were funding resources, economic development, energy security and independence, which a lot of you were talking about, EV infrastructure and how you can have pretty much a grid that can support that. And then emergency preparedness and food security. So a lot of this stuff is, like Anne said, similar to urban communities, but of course you have it at a different scale.
Oops, sorry, didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah.
And I would imagine some of you have talked to Caitlin in the past, so these might resonate with you. We are very interested in knowing if there are other priorities as well that you would consider, in your top 5 areas of concern. And if you're interested, please put them in the chat, because we're always trying to find what the pain points are so that we can put you in touch with those resources, and also try to determine some of the educational pathways going forward. And Caitlin, did you have any other comments that you'd like to make based on your discussions with the communities?
I think for now, these were the top 5 concerns, but of course there's always other issues that we definitely want to make sure that we can, hear from you and work with you guys on meet you with where you're at, is what I'm trying to say. So we want to just make sure that we're listening, and just feel free to reach out.
Great, thank you. And so just a little bit about the Sustainable Cities Network. It is based on 3 tenets, which are connecting communities, advancing sustainability, and really looking for and cultivating solutions. So as you can see by the picture, we certainly host a lot of different types of events and tours and focus on education. It is housed within ASU's Julianne Wrigley Global Futures Laboratory and aligns very closely with the Global Institute of Sustainability and Innovation and the School of Sustainability, which for the school, it is the first school of sustainability in the country, which was started in 2006. Our network is the first university city network of its kind in the United States, and it's award-winning. So we have received accolades from the US EPA Region 9 through their Green Government Award program. We also have received a couple of different awards from ASU's President Crow for sustainability, and our Project Cities program just recently won the Social Embeddedness Award, which we are very excited about in 2022. And so SCN, as we call it, or the network, is really designed to be that bridge with ASU's research and its technical capabilities, but really wanting to drill down into the frontline challenges facing communities. Excuse me. So that includes cities, towns, tribal communities, and counties across Arizona. And so through this, we really wanted to create a peer-to-peer network for community practitioners with the purpose of educating, but sharing best practices. So kind of to Travis's point, connecting you to each other so that you can help each other, because you're all trying to do very similar things, encouraging collaboration, creating a sharing and a comfortable environment so that you can enact sustainability plans, policies, and programs at ease within your community, so you can focus on the topics that are important, but also speak to the sustainability principles that you need to put in place on a local level. And then, of course, being that avenue for communities into the university, so you can participate with any of our schools and programs, but most importantly, you can connect with data that helps you make better decisions, and then also involve you in any regional, statewide, or even national type of grant proposals or funding opportunities that we may be involved with. We think that's really important. This is just a quick snapshot of about SCN, which I've talked about. We have literally held hundreds and hundreds of work group meetings since we started in 2009. So we've been operating for 14 years. As I mentioned, it started out regionally in Phoenix metro area, but has grown statewide. So we include Flagstaff and Tucson. Sedona has participated in some of our programs, as has Douglas. And so we're really wanting to make sure we have a broader reach with the communities. We also engage a lot with nonprofit organizations, business sector partners such as Arizona Forward, and various other national agencies such as the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, ICMA, ICLEI, and others. So yeah, we've got a lot of different connections, which we would love to have you leverage. And certainly our network discussions, activities, are all driven by the needs and interests of you as local communities. Local sustainability professionals, are the ones that lead our various work groups. And so it's really important for you to help drive the conversation. So I'm not going to go through this. This is just kind of an interesting little timeline where we have held various types of regional events, created various regional resources, such as the Low Impact Development Handbook, and then, of course, held various types of workshops and functions to educate and empower our local communities. So this is our work group diagram, which basically talks about how we facilitate much of our discussions. And as you can see in the middle, we have a steering committee, which is made up of about 10 different communities, including Maricopa County. The 10 includes Flagstaff and Tucson, which we think is really important to have northern and southern representation. And then over the course of time, we've implemented these various different work groups that meet monthly or every other month or as designated on specific topics of interest. And so these were actually topic areas brought forth by communities to facilitate further discussion and education at the time. Work groups do kind of ebb and flow, so some have gone away over the course of time and others have popped up or been renamed. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about them, but as you can see, they cover everything from energy. We tend to focus on water more from the green infrastructure or stormwater standpoint. Heat is a big issue, which naturally I think in Arizona is pretty typical. And it's also related to climate and resilience as well. Our newest group is the Federal Infrastructure Work Group, which based on some of the comments made earlier, I think are going to be that's going to be a very helpful forum for you as small communities. So just a couple of, I'm not going to go through all of this, but just as a note, the network is basically a free voluntary network. So you and your staff and your leadership for the community and even some of your community organizational, representatives can participate in any or all of these work groups, depending on your capacity. There's no pressure. It's basically at will. And so we want to make sure you are comfortable, but feel free to, participate as you can. And we're trying to also double up because we realize a lot of these topics are overlapping. So your heat resilience oftentimes will be related to climate and resilience as well. So we're trying to figure out ways to make it easier for various city and town and county, folks to participate on an ongoing basis. So we have our Arizona Heat Resilience Work Group. This one was started actually during the pandemic, so it's been virtual almost the entire time. And it includes a cooling center subgroup, which is overseen by Melissa Guadaro, who is with our ASU Healthy Urban Environments program and also our Knowledge Exchange for Resilience. So if you have any interest in cooling centers and how they're run and how they handle homeless type issues, also different strategies for having cooling centers in your community, that would be a great group to get involved with. It is also chaired by the City of Phoenix. The National Weather Service participates in it, and we have representation with the University of Arizona as well with their climate and planning programs. We also have a climate and resilience work group, which meets monthly. It was formerly called our best practices work group, and it is chaired by Flagstaff and Scottsdale at this point. And all are welcome. We talk a lot about the different types of plans, what kind of resources you need, also sharing different types of strategies for implementation of climate action planning. So speaking on the topic of electric vehicle, we do have an electric vehicle work group, which is quite popular right now. That is chaired by the cities of Avondale and Phoenix. We recently just held our second, I guess it would be community survey, which had some very telling statistics on how electric vehicle inventories for fleets at the community level have increased over the course of the last 2 years, and also the interest of cities in that topic going forward. So I would strongly encourage you all to participate as much as you can. And many of the past presentations are online through our meetings page if you want to kind of catch up on any of the PowerPoints and topics. We also have green infrastructure, which for those of you that includes urban forestry, so trees and shade, and then also structural shade is an important component, and then stormwater management. So a lot of our focus is on how to retain stormwater because we see it as an untapped resource, and then also implementation and expansion of low impact development. So integration of things like curb cuts and bioswales, retention so that it can serve a purpose with native vegetation and also trees and shade. And then our last group is solar and energy efficiency. That is one of our longest standing work groups that has a tendency to focus on renewable energy and energy efficiency. Right now, with a lot of the federal funding, there's interest in improving energy codes. So that is a big focus as well. That one is spearheaded by MESA. We haven't met in probably 6 months, but we do anticipate reconvening that work group, particularly around the federal funding that is coming up to get more communities invested in weatherization and energy code updates and solar and so forth. And the last one is our federal infrastructure work group, which just started meeting. We actually had a series of workshops last year, kind of trying to build the capacity around regional resilience specifically, and of course, resilience across the state. And federal infrastructure has kind of come out of that particular discussion. And so we are trying to hone in on the many different funding streams coming out of the Inflation Reduction Act, IIJA, the infrastructure bill, and it's very complex. So we're trying to bring as many people as we can to the table to kind of help explain and identify where the formula and the competitive funding sources are, and then also how to put groups of communities together to participate in collaborative grants so that more money can come to our communities and more money can come to the state. We also are working with ADOT in that they are going to be receiving some PROTECT funds, which are from the federal government that'll be distributed throughout the state relative to transportation and infrastructure deployment. And so trying to make sure people are aware of the folks at the state level that are going to be responsible for those funding distributions, and how communities, small and medium and large, can take advantage of that as well. So we're hoping that you will definitely participate in that one because there's a lot of information that I think can be shared through that group. Lastly, I'll just touch on our Project Cities program. That is a program specifically under the Sustainable Cities Network that started in 2017 that is associated. Basically, it is where we work with a dedicated community or set of communities on local challenges, and then we match those issues or challenges with ASU faculty-led courses. So students actually do the research and the work in conjunction with the city or town partner. And in turn, at the end of the semester, they present their recommendations. And yeah, it could be designs, it could be a plan, but it's basically giving you information and research so you can make better decisions at the local level. And you get, it is a paid fee service. A lot of that money goes to project management to make sure everything is facilitated. But there are some fabulous outcomes at the local level. You get a really nice summary report along with the student reports. And you also are able to present that to your leadership on a city-by-city basis. This is just a quick snapshot of the fact that we have done 84 class projects with 5 of our community partners. So those have included Apache Junction, Glendale, Peoria. We have Clarkdale as our rural community pilot. We have ADEQ, town of Miami. So we have been kind of growing and building our portfolio of communities and projects over the course of time. And we've also involved over 1,100 students as well from 40 different faculty areas. So we're very excited about that. It's a very successful program. This is a sample of our activating historic Clarkdale through sustainable design and policy reports. So this kind of gives you an idea of yeah, what our final report can look like on a local level. So for the Rural, Indigenous, and Small Communities Work Group, really the goal for this particular new work group is to provide the support that we've done for other communities in Arizona, but specifically to the smaller communities. So we want to facilitate the networking. We want to encourage the collaboration, figure out how we can provide as much support as possible, and of course the information sharing that we mentioned. And some of that is just through casual conversation, other is through formalized information and research, but it is very important that we give you a variety of different formats to do that in. And so with that, as we mentioned, we had the survey and priorities that Caitlin facilitated over the last couple of months. We've identified several, top 5 concerns that we could figure out. Of course, there's probably more than that, but then also what solutions have been mentioned or that you would like more information on. And so, Caitlin, you might want to mention a few things if you heard anything, or but these are some of the things that were mentioned as part of your survey responses, correct?
Yeah, so mostly I heard about energy conservation and then electric vehicles and also funding. So with those zero match grants, and then with economic development, we also had rural agriculture as another concern as well.
Great, thank you. And so we have just put together a sample of a couple of additional meetings to get everything started. Just through the surveying process, we determined Thursday morning seemed to be a good meeting time between 10 and 11. Keeping it to an hour seemed to be probably, advantageous because everybody seems to work on those hourly increments. And so we've set up our next meeting as May 18th and June 15th. And generally in July for the network overall, we don't meet just because people are on break or it's hot and they're dealing with extreme heat issues and other types of things. And we have plugged in a couple of different topics based on the interests of various participants and what the survey has shown. So we'd like to focus on funding infrastructure opportunities for May, and then economic development as well for June. And of course, we'll be adjusting as we receive feedback from the community participants as well. So with that, this is our contact information. And as mentioned, I will have the PowerPoint presentation available on our website. We'll send out a kind of a follow-up email as well, and we can include those emails from folks that are on the call. So if you want to reach out to them, as mentioned, Julia Colbert is not at this meeting, but she's certainly available if you're interested in learning more about Project Cities or talking about some of the work that we've done in the rural communities. And as a side note for that, any of the information and projects that we've done through Project Cities, that information is available to all communities in the network through our Project Cities website. So you're able to take advantage of the information that the research they've done on, say, for instance, electric vehicle or fleet management, or any other types of projects and topics.